Good evening, and welcome to Town of Perdition. This is Angel's Tale, Chapter 15, The Oncoming Storm. The fire team proceeded across the docks in single file towards the campgrounds. Many pairs of eyes scanned the tree line for any signs of movement. Besides the harsh gust of wind from the looming shadowy clouds, no movement could be seen. The escort glanced at one of the closest buildings. A small wooden cabin with lightless windows. A minuscule wooden sign hung above the door that read, Trading Post. Cal glanced back at the others. He pointed at the small trading post. Let's clear that building first. 2 of you go inside. The rest of you stay outside and keep an eye on things. Riona sighed. Let me guess, one of those people is me. Cal shrugged. You're the breacher. Riona clicked her tongue and glanced at Gianna. You mind watching my back? Gianna unfolded the stock of her AK and nodded. Lead the way. The two women carefully made their way to the door. Riona whispers to the redhead next to her. You take left, I'll take the right. Got it. Riona carefully tried the door. The knob did not resist her attempt to open the door. The Wayfinder swung the door open and rushed inside with Gianna following closely behind. With her rifle to her shoulder, she turned to the right. Riona's eyes widened at what she saw. Standing behind the store counter was a young, blonde-haired woman. The young woman's green eyes stared back at Riona wide-eyed. Identify yourself, Riona barked at her. The green-eyed woman put her hands up. Don't shoot! Leah, my name is Leah, don't... The woman sputtered out. Gianna looked at her suspiciously as Riona activated her radio. Angel to Warden, got a possible Class 5 here. Need you in here. Over. On it! The blonde-haired woman stared in bewilderment. Who are you people? Riona didn't answer her as she heard the characteristic metal clinking of the escort's footsteps as he entered the room. The woman's breathing became more panicked as she saw Cal. Who's this then? The armored man asked. Riona shrugged. Said her name is Leah, that's about it. The escort took a few steps closer to the counter. He rested his arms on the counter and leaned forward slightly. The man's expressionless visor stared for a few moments at the woman across from him. Riona could feel the air shift around them. Condensation began to form on the windows. The Wayfinder looked over at Cal to see a shadowy mist forming on his shoulders. After a few more long moments, the escort withdrew himself a few steps back. She's human. Gianna looked over at Leah in confusion. How is that even? Cal cut her off. That's what we're here to figure out. The woman looked between the trio nervously. Now tell me, who are you exactly? Cal questions the woman. Leah pulled on her hair as she glanced between the three armed people in front of her. I'm just a camp counselor here. Riona could see Leah was wearing a dark green button-down shirt with a pair of jean shorts. Her blonde hair was tied into a loose ponytail. And what year is it? Leah raised an eyebrow. Why does that? What year is it? 2003? The pair of Wayfinders exchanged confused looks. Is she some kind of echo? Riona asked. She has a heartbeat, so that's a no. I don't understand. What the hell is going on? Riona snorts. We'd like to ask you the same question. Speaking of, your voice. It sounds familiar. Leah shifted her gaze and tilted her head. It does? Riona nodded. You're the one from the broadcast. Leah shook her head. I don't know what you're talking about. You should all leave. Cal rested his hands on the counter and leaned forward. Not until we figure out what's in that broadcast station. A shadow fell upon the young woman's features at the mention of the broadcast station. You're here for the station. That's right. Leah crossed her arms. Then you definitely shouldn't be here. We have a job to do. First, we need to know what's actually going on here. Leah looked away from Cal. Gianna sighed and remarked to Cal, You're wasting your time, Warden. She's not going to tell us anything. Let's go. The escort turned his gaze to Gianna. The man silently agreed and turned away. He began to walk towards the door. Wait! Leah said as she ran after the trio. She grabbed onto Cal's hand. The two Wayfinders tensed up at the sudden contact with the escort. I'll tell you what I know, okay? Cal stared back at her. The man tilted his head. Why the sudden change of heart? Leah tugged on her sleeves as she averted her gaze from the armored man. "'Cause I don't really know what's going on here either." Rihanna narrowed her eyes as she stared at the young woman with distrust. "You have no idea what's going on, and you're just standing here?" The camp counselor rubbed the back of her neck. "Well, I still have a job to do as well. So, who are you people? Military? Police?" Rihanna chuckled. "Really look like either to you?" Leah smiled nervously. No." "Who else is here besides you?" Warden asked the young woman. "Not many of us since we're closer to the season. Just a skeleton crew right now." "Take us to where the others are." "I haven't been able to reach them by radio for a few hours now. I'm not sure what's happening." Gianna sighed and muttered, "And of course, we're gonna go investigate." Rihanna chuckled and lightly punched Gianna's shoulder. "Just what we signed up for." Leah's gaze settled on everyone's guns that they carried. "So you didn't exactly answer my question. Who are you people?" Rihanna flipped up the visor on her helmet. "We're wayfinders, lady." Leah looked at Rihanna's strange eyes with alarm. "What the hell are you?" Leah backed up against the wall. Rihanna flashed at her a toothy grin. "Just a mutant, hon. Don't mind the eyes." This doesn't make any sense." Leah rubbed her face. Gianna rolled her eyes and remarked, "Welcome to our world, princess." Cal held up a hand. "That's enough. Let's not waste any more time. Leah, can you bring us to the others?" "Yeah, sure, but what are your names? I mean, you already know mine." Cal rested a hand on his chest plate. "I'm Morden, and these two are Angel and Crimson." "What kind of names are those?" Gianna rolled her eyes once again. "They're call signs, princess." "Why can't you use your real names?" Cal shook his head. "We should get moving." He turned to walk outside with the two wayfinders, and Leah followed them reluctantly outside. Farron stared at Leah in disbelief. "Am I hallucinating?" Ben shook his head. "Nope, I see her too." Cal interjected and gestured to the pair of wayfinders. "That's Leah. She's going to show us around and whatnot. Leah, this is Cryptid and Doc." Leah smiled sheepishly and waved at the two, who simply stared back at the young woman. "Angel, you're on point. Look after Leah." "Got it." She flipped down her visor and turned to Leah. "Come on, Missy. You're with me." Leah fast walked over to Rihanna's side. The younger woman stuck close to the wayfinder, maybe a bit too close. Rihanna could see that she was shaking slightly. "You cold?" Rihanna asked her. The young woman shook her head and rubbed her hands. "All right then, take us to the staff cabins then." Leah nodded. "All right, it's just on this trail, up the hill." She pointed at the dirt trail. Leah kept pace with the taller woman up the hill. As they crested the hill leading up to the staff cabins, Rihanna saw a small red object laying on the ground. Rihanna held up an open hand to signal for the others to stop. Rihanna slowly walked over to the small object and kneeled down. She picked up the small object gingerly. It was a small red walkie-talkie, a simple civilian one. Rihanna wiped off the mud from the walkie. The wayfinder pressed a few buttons on it to see if it worked, but she had no such success. "Looks like one of our radios," Leah said as she stood over Rihanna's shoulder. "Whose radio is it?" "Couldn't tell you. Does it still work?" "No, it's dead." Leah hummed. "Must have been left out in the rain or something." Rihanna nodded and set the radio back down and signaled for the others to keep moving. Several staff cabins stood to the left side of the trail. Most of them were single stories with large porches in the front with darkened interiors. Rihanna turned to Leah. "You sure they're here?" Leah lost a bit of color from her face. "They should be." Rihanna hummed and looked over at Cal. "Orders?" "Let's clear them all." Rihanna did most of the breaching, of course. She found the cabins empty of anybody. However, all the cabins were decorated with 2 bunks and a stove in each of them. Personal belongings were scattered around most of the cabins. One of them even had a half-eaten breakfast still sitting on the table, still steaming. The escort looked in disbelief at the entire situation. "This doesn't make any..." "Search the cabin for anything." Rihanna searched through the various drawers and dressers. She found some old magazines. She even found some of the Nintendo Power magazines. She used to love reading those. Hey, Crypt, take a look at this. You remember reading these? Farron's ears perked up as she walked over. I remember these. Check the date for them. Riona notices that the publication date is March of 2003. Well, these seem brand new, Warden. Maybe she's right about it being 2003. The armored man hums. Still don't know how that could be possible. Riona shrugs. It's hard to say. Not that hard to imagine the hazard zone messing with time as well. That's not a comforting thought. Gianna rubbed her arms. Leah sighed. I have no idea what you're talking about. What I'm worried about is no one is here. Ben nodded in agreement. It's almost like they just stepped away. Any idea where they could have gone? Cal asked. Well, considering they even left their breakfast on the table, it must have been really important. Some kind of drill or emergency. What kind of emergency? Maybe a missing camper? They didn't come get you? Leah shrugged. Maybe everyone's radio is dead too, so they had the people within earshot looking for the lost camper. Cal shook his head. Still doesn't make any sense. Leah shrugged once again. I'm just throwing out ideas. This is all really strange. This whole day has been really strange. Can say that again, Farron remarked. Any ideas where they could be now? Yeah, but I don't like it. What is it? The broadcast station. Hey guys, come take a look at this. Ben motioned for the others to come over. The rest of the group walked over to the window. He pointed out the window. It was raining. This wasn't normal rain. The rain droplets were black as tar, like ash was falling from the sky instead of water. Is that rain? Rihanna asked nobody in particular. Maybe on a different planet it is. The others glanced at Leah. She hadn't joined them over at the window. Instead, she stood in the middle of the room. Her face was paler than snow. Her nails dug into her arms as she looked out the window with wide eyes. Riona felt concerned about the younger woman. She slowly walked closer to her. You okay, hon? She asked in a gentler tone than she usually ever talked with. Leah looked to be on the verge of tears. Riona pulled up a chair for her. She wordlessly sat down into the chair and simply continued to stare out the window. The others looked at Leah with a mixture of confused expressions while Rihanna sat by her. The wayfinder took off her helmet and set it down on the dresser. Leah looked over at Rihanna with teary eyes. What's wrong? She asked softly. Leah shook her head rapidly. You don't understand. They're gone. They're all gone. The woman descended into hysterics and tears began to stream down her face. Rihanna hesitantly wrapped her arms around Leah, which surprised everyone. The young woman cried into Rihanna's shoulder as Rihanna did her best to soothe her. I know. The zone has taken everything from us. People we love, people who we can't live without. It took everything from us. Leah nodded slightly but said nothing in return as she continued to sob. The others watched as the pristine buildings began to decay and degrade from the rain itself. Leah was right. Everything did change when it rained. And that was Chapter 15 of Angel's Tale. I know this took longer than it should have, but it gets harder and harder each day when they're gone. Don't mind me. You may not understand right now, but I keep saying that, but it will make sense. It always will. It will. I promise. It will make sense. Good night, listeners. Good night.